Corbolic V2. This is a super safe and effective natural anabolic. Not only is this product going to help you increase protein synthesis, which basically means muscle recovery and growth, it also may inhibit myostatin, which is a protein in your body that is known to inhibit muscle growth. This is a complete natural anabolic that works through multiple different pathways, has multiple trademarked ingredients. If you are a natural athlete looking for that edge, Corbolic V2 is what you need. Get yourself some.
All right, guys. So welcome to the Pro Physique Code. I'm going to go through some interviews with some pretty fantastic people, and this is Jon, who is our over 50 winner. Congratulations, man.
Thank you. And Paul, I mentioned it before, but thank you again for the community. This has been an eye opener and a really good event for me.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't always think of it as a community because when I got into like transforming myself, I got into bodybuilding, but there was a community there of people that I met that we had similar goals. And so, yeah, this challenge we've been doing now for about 4 years, that was an unexpected kind of perk that I found.
Yeah. And you know, it's what I like most about your community is that there's a lot of like-minded people, and there's a lot of people that are a little bit older, and the challenge is really life, right?
Yeah.
It's not, you know, do you understand? Yeah. I've spent so much money on personal trainers. My wife looked at me, she said, if you don't understand this by now, you're never going to get it, right?
Right.
It's about realistic expectations. And normally I'm the guy that gets on these things, and I'm posting pictures and you know, writing long posts and all this stuff. And this time I just decided to sit back and watch the struggles that other people had, and more importantly, what they did to overcome it.
Yeah.
And there's an old you know, the law of contrast is one of the best way to influence people, right? And I think to myself, I'm looking at a woman who's got 3 kids and is trying to figure out how to jam a workout in a 12-hour day. And I'm sitting here in my beautiful little hobby farmhouse wondering what I'm going to do next today, right? So
Right.
Quit feeling sorry for yourself and go out and make it happen.
Yeah, I've had a lot of stress and struggle the last year in my life. And the one thing that just kind of always keeps me going forward, I just keep telling myself, do the hard thing. Because the hard thing that you're putting off doing is the thing that's going to get you to the place where you feel better. But we can kind of like delay that. But I want to talk about your approach, nutrition, cardio. I believe you lost about 40 pounds in the 12 weeks.
I lost 40 pounds in the 12 weeks. I'm not going to lie, about halfway through, I'd actually gained 3 pounds. So I started off, the first picture was at 270. And about halfway through, I had spent time, and what I did for my nutrition is I got a glucose monitor, a continuous glucose monitor. And I was listening to one of your podcasts the other day, and you were talking about diet. And I know, you know, it's not what's right. I can sit down and get into arguments about the science and the physiology and all this stuff. The reality of it is what works for you, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny. My wife sent me a text last night. She was listening to a interview with RFK, and he said the cool part about continuous glucose monitors is it allows you to be the CEO of your own health.
Sure.
And I'm a data freak. I mean, again, you look at one of my favorite competitors that you spend time with is Dan Devine. And Dan is a data guy, right?
Oh,
and
man.
What does data allow you to do? Ask better questions, right? So how come I work out 5 times a week? I eat relatively well. I keep my calories around 2,700, and I'm not losing any weight at all. I mean, I'm just maintaining. And at 294 pounds, you know, a half an hour workout, that's when I started. I started this in October. On October 1st, I weighed 294 pounds. I looked at my wife and I said, honey, we need to get one of these continuous glucose monitors. I got to figure out why things aren't happening for me the way that they're supposed to happen. And Paul, it opened my eyes like nothing I'd ever experienced before. Like I said, I like data. And some of the things that absolutely blew my mind, stress, sleep, timing of eating. I mean, these are all things that people guess. And I know that one of the things that you often say is one size does not fit all.
Yeah.
So rather than being keto, carnivore, this diet, that diet, I just said to myself, you know what this is going to be? This is going to be Jon's diet.
Well,
I'm
let's
gonna,
talk about the specifics. Like, let's talk about like what a typical day of nutrition looked like when you started and when you ended, and what were the
okay.
adjustments you made?
So I started off, I know for a fact that my resting metabolic rate is 2,700 calories. So if I just sit around all day, that's the way it was explained to me. I'm sorry if I get some of the science wrong, but I have
Well,
a
that's
lot of
fine.
resources. And 2,700 calories. So, there is something to be said about calories in, calories out. So I wanted to make sure that what I was putting in my body was good. But even at 2,700, I'd often find myself looking for food. So what
Well,
I did
that's,
is,
John, you're if you listen to a lot of what I say, you're below 10 times your body weight in calories. So if you're at 290 and you're at 2,700 calories, I would put your maintenance calories closer to 4,000,
yeah,
3,500 to maintain a body like that. Yeah.
Paul, and it's so obvious when you're talking to somebody that knows what they're talking about. And that's the stuff that I had to learn. So I
Yeah.
started off with 2,500. And for the first half of the challenge, I ate foods that did not spike my glucose. All right.
Okay.
So my wife and I, we call it granimals for adults. We had green, yellow, and red foods. And I knew what I could eat. Anything in the green section, I could eat anytime.
Yep.
And by the end of the challenge, the day before I took the pictures, I probably took in about 4,500 calories. And it was protein, fat, and generally just water. And that's so when I started, I was eating the things that I thought were healthy. I'd start off the morning and eat a granola bar and maybe have a glass of orange juice. And then about an hour later, I would look at my glucose monitor and my glucose was in the 220s.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. You start the mental association with, okay, I put this into my system, the glucose went to 220, and for the next 3 hours, I was in pain. Every joint hurt, my back hurt, I would get brain fog. So I just started removing the things that would spike my glucose. And it literally took me 4 months to really figure out what's good and bad.
Yeah.
The other thing that I incorporated was I do 12 hours of fasting. I don't like to call it intermittent fasting because really I don't like to eat in the morning. It's just, they say
Well, you know
breakfast.
what's funny, John?
What's
People,
that?
people talk about fasting all the time. My natural eating pattern, I eat about 7:30 p.m. and I usually eat about 7 a.m. So I'm getting a 12-hour fast every day. I'm
Yeah.
just not trying to do it. It's just my natural eating pattern. So I know a lot of people that don't eat in the morning, but then they eat throughout the day and late into the evening.
Yep. And that's Paul, that's exactly what I ended up doing. I stay away from the morning only because I don't, it doesn't really do anything for me.
Yeah,
So,
my meals in the morning are very
yeah.
small, like a couple hundred calories, and then my meals in the evening will sometimes be in excess of 1,000. Um, but I have found that listening to myself
Yep.
helps because if you try to force feed yourself at times when you're not hungry,
Yep.
when you're hungry later in the day, you're going to be starving.
And that's so I said I've done a number of these programs before, and I'd be the guy, man, the beautiful food prep, right? The picture
Yeah,
of the 72 cartons with everything exact. I don't like eating like that. I don't enjoy eating like that. It's not fun. At 61, I'm
yeah,
I'm not I'm not worried about walking out and what I look like on the beach. I just want to be healthy. So, I said to my wife, why don't we figure out what it is? And to your point, I don't eat in the morning. I also know that coffee with cream, which I used to have every morning. I'm from
oh yeah,
Wisconsin. I love a little cream, right? Would shoot my glucose through the roof.
yeah.
And it's not supposed to. Now, a lot of the snacks that I like that are protein based, like nuts and that type of thing, same thing. And the other thing that I found out, Paul, was my recovery time was awful. I
Okay,
would have, say, a bag of cashews on a Saturday. My glucose would spike up into the 130s and it wouldn't see double digits again until maybe Monday, Tuesday, as many as 4 days before it came down. So if I have all that extra glucose, like logically, I can't think I'm burning all that much fat. So I just
well,
avoid it.
it's interesting because how tall are you, John?
6'2".
Okay, so you're a big guy, so no one's questioning you at 6'2", 290. They're not like, oh, you're out of shape. They just think you're a big guy. But realistically, at 6'2", you could be 230 or 220 and be
Yep.
in good shape. So you are probably in a I wouldn't call it pre-diabetic, but definitely in a state where what's going to happen to you now when you get leaner, you're going to switch the
Mhm.
other direction. You're going to require more
Yep.
carbohydrates and stuff. So tell me, now that you've lost this 40 pounds, where do your calories reside now?
I'm right around 3,000. And what
Awesome.
I've done, and what my wife is a competitor. We actually met you at the Pittsburgh Nationals in 2023.
Oh,
I
awesome.
shook your hand. And so that's one of the impetus behind what we're doing here. She's amazing. She's just a really disciplined, tough chick. And she would compete, and we'd walk in, and a lot of people would tell her how nice it was that she brought her father with her to watch the competition.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit older than her, but I'd be the old fat guy just limping behind her as she went through her business. So it was really important. I'm planning on competing again. So I'm at about 3,000 calories a day. She has helped me start where do I need to put the carbs. So I've got
Right.
my workouts are scheduled a little bit more. I do a lot of walking. Very
Well,
rarely
let's
over.
talk about that because there hasn't been a huge shift in your calories, but it sounds like there's been a huge shift in your lifestyle. So
Oh yeah.
what is the walking looking like for you?
Well, I mentioned earlier, we have a nice little hobby farm up here. We have 7 acres, and in the past, I never really walked all that much. We also have 6 dogs. So what I decided to do is this chaos. My life is, it seems like it's chaos, but I whiteboarded it and I said, okay, how can I maximize my movement without compromising what I need to get done during the day? And I started taking a look at the things that I could do. Now, if I walk all 6 of the dogs twice around the property, I've done 3 miles and I've accomplished something else. So I started incorporating things, and then when we got well into the program, I started using a stair stepper. We have an old barn that we've converted into a gym. It's pretty cool. And what I do is I go down there in the morning and I'll set it at about 3 or 4, very easy. And I had a hip issue for a while.
Okay.
And what I've lost a lot of muscle in my left glute. So
Okay.
rather than just walking, what I wanted to do is I wanted to take advantage of the steps.
Yeah.
And over that, I've developed my glute is getting a lot stronger. And so I'll start going on walks. I find the walks are a lot brisker. I'm standing up straighter. My posture is better. These are all the things that are important to us. And now that I've gotten to where I am, my wife sent me a link the other day. She said, "What do you think about competing in November?" Because I listened to a podcast that you did not too long ago, and it said, "Are you?" It was the title was, "Are you too old to compete?" And I really enjoy competing because, and one of the things you guys talked about, you played college ball, right?
Hmm.
You lose that competitiveness, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't play college sports, but I played sports, and I'm a grinder. I mean, if I can find a ball game someplace, I'll go play. But now that I'm 60, I don't have that competition, right?
Right.
And Monopoly doesn't do it for me. So what is it, why don't I compete against myself? So this weekend, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna put a program together. She's already figured out which nationals she's going to be competing at. We're going to work ourselves backwards, and the summer challenge is going to be my springboard and to
Love it.
getting up on stage again. I did 2019. I finished number 2 in Wisconsin State Shredder Cheddar
Yeah.
Masters Division,
Okay.
and it was downhill from there. So
So did you hit any sticking points once the weight started moving? Did you just get on a roll?
I just got on a roll. I followed it because it was easy. I ate stuff that I liked. I
Yep.
ate when I liked to eat it. The data told me if I was doing something wrong, and I'd quickly make an adjustment. And it was really easy. And the other thing is, I hate these soul crushing workouts where you go in, HIIT, and you walk out. It's
Yeah,
7 o'clock in the morning. If I'm sweating and breathing hard and walking out of the gym, I'm not ready for the day. And I can't do that. I mean, the reality of it is, I need to have something that'll relax me and get me ready to go. And boy, I tell you, I know I have an issue with cortisol,
okay.
and your walking regimen has been phenomenal for me.
It's not the in vogue thing. I remember when I started talking about walking a lot. It's not in vogue. It's because it's not sexy. No one wants to hear that
Yep.
all you did was, track your calories and do more walking. But I'm going to be 50 this year, and I've never stayed so lean with so much muscle so easy. And anything I do stressful is about putting muscle on. It's not about taking fat off. So yeah, you make a
100%,
good point. And
100%.
I don't know if you've tried out Core Hard, but Core Hard really helps with cortisol too.
Okay.
It's something I use with my competitors, keeps your cortisol levels lower, which for those that aren't familiar with cortisol, it's the stress hormone, increases hunger, reduces fat loss, so it can really help, and it improves sleep, things like that.
Yep.
So,
That's one of the things that I'm working on this time through. So the challenge starts on Monday. My big focus is going to be getting 7 to 8 solid hours of sleep. And I don't do that right now. And I've done it in the past. In the
yeah.
past, when I've had really good sleeps, my
Well, are
body,
those dogs able to leave you alone for 7 or 8 hours? Because I mean, dogs.
we work the snot out of them during the day. So we've
Oh,
got
there's dogs for the
5
night.
pit bulls and a chihuahua.
Oh
And
my
the
Lord.
chihuahua is the one that's the biggest pain, right?
He's the barker. Yeah.
He's the barker.
All right. So you told me something on this podcast before we started. A lot of these challenges, one of my concerns is people push themselves really hard for the 90 days just because there's a cash prize and a competition that the challenge ends, and then they return to a previous lifestyle and they don't really get a benefit out of it. So how has your transition been since the challenge ended a few weeks ago?
Unbelievable. I am so motivated right now. It's success breeds success, right?
Yep.
So part of the problem at 294 when you don't see any results for 3 weeks is you get depressed and you just kind of you taper off. You come out like the fast guy in the gate, and then 3 weeks into it, you're like, okay, this isn't working this time. I didn't do that. I failed a
Okay.
little bit at the beginning. I focused on getting it done, and when I got done, I thought to myself, okay, I've done this before. I've looked great before. And how long does it take? About 6 months before I have a pot belly again, before I start seeing
Yeah.
love handles again. So what I wanted to do is for the 2 weeks, right after the challenge, I didn't lift. All I did is walk. I took it easy. I started incorporating some serious carbs back in around the walking, and I maintained for those 2 weeks. And starting on Monday, or this last Monday, or excuse me, last Friday, I decided to get back on my diet where I take out a lot of the carbs, right?
Yeah.
And in that time alone, I've lost 5 pounds. Now I'm sure some of it's water, right? I eat a lot of salt. I only weigh myself once a week. I don't want to be a slave to the scale because all that does is screw you up. And I try to make sure that I'm taking anywhere from 3 to 4 pounds off and still maintaining my muscle mass. Now, we did a blood test before it started. So my full goal then is to jump into the summer challenge, use that period of time to really get myself at the weight that I want to be. And then when the challenge is done, we'll pick a show maybe in August, September, and hopefully we'll see you there. I'll definitely see you at the Nationals, I'm sure. That
Where is your house?
we live in a small town right
Wisconsin?
about an hour and a half north of Green Bay.
Okay, Green Bay. Okay. Yeah. No, I won't be at any shows in that area, but if you're in Florida, there's
Oh, we,
definitely.
we travel. My wife is really into the lifestyle. She's incredibly talented and she
Awesome.
really enjoys it. So
Perfect.
yeah.
Well,
And
give me some before we finish up, give me some insight for anyone who can like learn from this from you. Like what would your like, motivation be, or what would your feedback be for someone that's thinking about getting involved in something like this?
Especially as you start getting older, people want to tell you that it's just natural. My hip hurts. It's natural. I'm walking slower. It's natural. I'm going to bed at 7 o'clock at night. It's not. The truth is that once you figure out your health is a little compromised, you can come back from it, no matter what the doctors say. I mean, I
Right.
went and visited doctors, and nobody brought up nutrition. Nobody brought up anything. My blood pressure's out of control. I was a 5.9 A1C. I was pre-diabetic, and all they talked about was pain management. Nobody mentioned anything about food. You can take complete control of your life. I love the continuous glucose monitor only because I know exactly what's going into my body and I know how the result is for
Yeah.
John. So I don't have to take, we've been complaining about the food pyramid in the health industry forever because
Right.
if I ate 8 servings of bread every day, I would weigh 400 pounds. So one size does not fit all.
Right.
Figure out what works for you, keep your blood sugar in line, and in about a month, 60 days, it gives your body the flexibility to do other things. You can start reincorporating things that you need in order to go to that next level. But it's all about patience, right?
No, it's funny you bring that up because although I work mostly with competitors now, in my early years of coaching, I worked with a lot of men who were overweight, and I would find that we would have to get their carbohydrates incredibly low to lose weight. And then when we got them closer to their normal body weight, 12, 15% body fat, we would have to start bringing the carbs back up because they would burn through them faster. So there is an element of the human body is very dynamic. And I think
Yes.
that's where people get in trouble when they talk about a certain diet working for everybody because it worked for that one person in that scenario. But you're seeing influencers all the time now switch. But that's why I love the idea of accountability because, just being aware, having the
Yes.
data of your own body is something that I think some of us just avoid. We almost don't want to know. We just,
One of the reasons I don't step on the scale during the week is I don't want 5 pounds of water to tank me mentally,
yeah.
right? I step
Yeah.
on it. I do the same process on Sunday. I get a nice sweat on. I make sure that I'm not retaining a lot of water, and I step on the scale and I try to make it very consistent. And there are weeks where I'd see as much as 6, 7, 8 pounds, but in reality, I know that a lot of that was just the
Yeah.
water that I was
Our
carrying.
body is a sponge and you're a big
Yeah.
guy, so that's very reasonable, so
Yeah. So yeah, 195 is the goal. I would say that if you can take advantage of this community, watch as people grow, you're doing yourself a huge favor. There's
yeah.
so many smart people. I talk about Dan Devine, right? Other than the
Yeah.
fact that he's got the same name as one of the greatest Packer coaches of all time.
Oh,
He's
Coach Dan
also
Devine, I
a
forgot about
really smart guy, right?
that.
And the stuff that he says makes sense and it echoes your thinking. So it kind of, it all starts rolling and it's fun.
Dan took kind of like my philosophy and just took it to the next level with
Oh
the
yeah,
amount of steps he was getting, like
yeah.
crazy.
But to
Um,
your point, it's not sexy. It's as sexy as you got a parachute on your back and you're doing
I
sprints
don't
in your
know.
front
What's
yard.
what's sexy is how many people comment like, "Oh, he's on TRT," and I'm like, you guys don't understand how the human body looks more muscular when it has no body fat. But if you saw Dan in a t-shirt, you would not think he works out. Like it's that's the illusion I get too when I diet down. I'll post a picture. Someone will say like, "Oh, you must be on steroids." But I'm like, if you saw me in person, I look the smallest I could be right now. But with no body fat, pictures are so kind of
Yeah,
they it's hard to correlate what someone looks like. That's why I love bodybuilding shows because you go there expecting everyone to look like Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, and Dorian Yates, and they just look like tall, skinny people that got shredded. It's just
yeah.
it's a different, and that's what got me into it. I was like, oh, I could do this. And that's why I love this challenge because, and I've said this before, but with the men, you can't, like, everybody can fake their picture from the front. You can go have a big meal, you can push your stomach out. When you face the back, that's how I judge the men. When you see that waistline come in, those love handles are gone. How many inches did you lose off your waist, do you know?
6.
6 inches. I mean, that's a whole new wardrobe.
Yeah, it's my old wardrobe. So
Yeah.
real quick, my wife's 17 years younger than I am. We got married 5 years ago. Right before we got married, we both decided we were going to be in a show, right?
Yeah.
We didn't have a big wedding. It was just a bunch of buddies, but we wanted to look good. And we also, health is a big part of our life.
Okay.
She's a practitioner, an acupuncturist, a bodybuilder. I mean, all this, and it makes it so much easier and so much fun to do this with other people. I'm excited about this year's shows. I have to admit, being somebody that comes and enjoys the show with her, it's kind of like having a kid in track,
Yeah.
right? You sit around all day waiting for the 2 minutes, but to your point, it's pretty encouraging and pretty impressive the number of people that are able to get their body fat down like that. And I agree with you. The biggest thing now is what's the board short?
Men's
Uh,
physique.
yeah. You see a lot of, especially with women's bikini and men's physique, you're starting to see people get into it and
Hmm.
they're finding out you don't really have to kill yourself in the gym.
No, I mean, the gym is an extension of just wanting to be fit. And over time, the thing about the gym is that you only get better with time. It's such a delayed gratification. I mean, I'm gonna be 50 this year, and I think this is probably the most I've ever appreciated my physique in my life. Because even though I was training really hard in my 30s,
Yeah.
all I thought was I don't have enough. I'm not good enough. And now I look at myself and go, man, I've really
You look
changed.
good. There, you got a picture up where you show yourself a little soft, and then on the right hand side, well, it's like Dan. I was looking at talking to my wife. I says, Dan looks like from the neck up, he looks like the head of accounting for a
Yeah.
large corporation, and from the neck down, he looks like he should be playing safety for the
Yeah, he
Baltimore
looks like
Ravens.
I said he looks like a science teacher. I don't know why.
Yeah, yeah. He says, but again, it's understanding the data, understanding the math, understanding that me eating what this standard diet that's given to both men and women in many
Yeah,
cases, right? How logically, how is that going to work for a guy who's 6'2", 290, right? And so I
yes.
deplete my calories down to 2,400. All that means that, Paul, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm running around, rummaging around in the
Yeah.
refrigerator looking for something to get
Well,
me
and you're
through.
also going to have no energy throughout the day, so it's going to be a
Yep.
double whammy. You're going to eat such little calories that you're going to not want to do anything. Then if you snack, now you're over. It's a vicious cycle.
Yep. So being
Well,
ADHD, it's nice to have that monitor because it tells me what's going on
yeah.
all the time.
Well, I like that you're going to be in the new group. That's exciting for me, and I like that you're going to be involved in the bodybuilding community because I know we're going to cross paths in the future. So, thank you for your time today, John, and congrats on being our over 50 champion. And I will say, you were in consideration for the overall champion. So,
Wow. I
yeah.
got to be honest with you, man. I was flabbergasted. There are
Well,
some
because
people.
we judge the competition based on the starting and ending position. I think some people think we choose the ending position, and that's not it. It's who had the biggest transformation from start to finish, not who got the leanest. And you can look at some of our champions from the past. You would see their afters and think, well, that's not that impressive. But when you saw their befores and they lost 6, 8 inches off their waist and 30, 40 pounds on a 5'8" frame, they look like different human beings. Like
Yes.
they get treated differently. So
Yes. I agree 100%.
awesome.
Well, I
Well, thank
appreciate
you.
it, man. Thank you for the community, and I'm looking forward to seeing you during
The
the
new
summer
group's
champ.
open. You guys jump in for $50. Meal plans, training plans, community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Here, just getting on at night and reading and listening
Yeah.
and watching people's struggles and realizing you're not an island, right? There's other people that are out there. And I've had a couple of Mark reached out a couple of times, said, keep going, that type of thing. It's good to have that kind of encouragement from the people that have done it, right?
Yeah. I need to get in there more. I tend to just let you guys run and let the other coaches take over. But I'm gonna start getting in there more.
That'd be awesome.
All right. Well,
All
I'm
right.
gonna I'm gonna end the podcast here, but thank you for your time today, bud.
Thanks, brother. Thank you very much.